I'm out here in a unusually sunny spot for my garden to talk to you today about pigeon peas. And pigeon peas are native probably to India. They have a very long history of domestication. They're grown all over the tropics really, and if you're not already growing in the dry tropics, you really should. So they are this small tree really that produces a bean that looks not unlike a soybean in the pod, and its uses are very much like a chickpea. You can use it in curries, you can use it in dals, you can use it in hummus, whatever you want. You can also use the green pods, if I can find one, like this. When they're nice and swollen like this, you pick those up, split them open, and you've got basically a garden pea. It can be steamed, boiled, mashed, served with fish and chips if you want. Like most beans and peas, they're high in protein, they're high in fiber, they're high in a number of vitamins, so they're a good nutritious thing to have around the garden. When they get to a height like this, where you can't actually reach a lot of the seeds, a really good thing to do, because they get very brittle if you try and bend the branches down, is just take the branches you can't reach up to, find a node which will grow into new leaves at a good height, and just snip everything off above that. Then you can harvest these pods off at your leisure. They have a long history of domestication. There are a few varieties as a result. Some of them will live for less time, some of them will live for more time, some of them will actually stay quite small and manageable, but I quite like this height because it also means they make quite an effective windbreak. They're widely used around a lot of Africa, the Caribbean and the Indian subcontinent. They are really fantastic. They are a nitrogen fixing. The cut off branches and leaves are very good nitrogen rich fertilizer for the soil because they associate with nitrogen fixing bacteria. I use them because they don't need any irrigation, because they originate from dry tropical areas. I use them as a shading for where I want to establish new young trees. So here, for example, along this road, I've got small mango trees, small lemon trees, small date palms coming up in amongst this. Now those are obviously growing a lot more slowly, but they are coming up, and because of this shading, I don't need to come out and water those despite our very lengthy dry season. About 10 leaves of these will give you about a kilo of peas, which is good, but it does mean that it's labor intensive and quite time consuming. What I would strongly recommend is just pop on a television series, sit down in front of that, pick it as you go. Part of the reason pigeon peas are a really good one to have around is they need very little intervention in terms of insects, because almost all of their pests have natural controls because they've been in Africa for so long. Predators have had time to get used to their pests. So these little guys here are blister beetles. Now I'm not going to touch them directly because it's in the name. If they get distressed, they exude a fluid which can cause quite severe blistering. Now they are quite fond of flowers generally. They go around, they eat the petals, they often eat right down into the reproductive parts of the flower, and they can quite considerably reduce your output on a lot of crops, especially a lot of the legumes. On pigeon peas, however, pigeon peas produce so many flowers so regularly that unless you're using a lot of pesticides, you're not going to be seeing these at a level that can actually reduce the output, because the pigeon pea is flowering more than it can fruit in a lot of varieties. So these are actually not a problem, and actually on a pigeon pea they also do work as a pollinator. They're quite furry for a beetle, so they pick up a lot of pollen as they're going around. Another pollinator you're going to see a lot is leafcutter bees, which are really nice things to have in the garden. Boosting out things with a few solitary bees really improves your pollination, especially because those leafcutter bees, they tend to be quite long-tongued, which means they're not going to be cutting into the bases of other flowers like a honeybee might. So these ones were planted on very compacted sandy soil, generally quite nutrient poor, as is a lot of Zambia. So it's really, really good to see how well they're doing, and I strongly recommend them if you aren't already growing them. I think that's enough for now, don't you, Jonathan? Is it enough for now?